agenda and your presidency with what's happening on the Hill this week?
Victory is what's at stake. We got three things to do: the debt ceiling, continuing resolution, and the two pieces of legislation. If we do that, the country's going to be in great shape.
That was President Biden today, ahead of a big week on Capitol Hill, which could determine the hand that Democrats have to play heading into the midterm elections. Senate Republicans expected to block a bill in the next hour that would fund the government and raise the debt ceiling, which could lead to a shutdown by Thursday night of this week. And Democratic leaders in the House and Senate are under pressure to pass economic bills key to President Biden's agenda, but they're meeting opposition from within their own party. The stakes for getting President Biden's agenda through Congress couldn't be any higher. Our friend Charlie Sykes writes this in the Bulwark, quote, "Never Trumpers have rooted for the success of the Biden presidency, not because we supported all of its policies, but because we understood the consequences of failure. If the Democrats blow it now, they'll be opening the door for a restoration of the politics of nihilism led by the orange one himself." Nobody wants that. Joining our conversation, MSNBC political contributor, our friend Jason Johnson, journalism and politics professor at Morgan State University, as well as a contributor to the Griot. Claire's still here. Jason Johnson, make sense of this for me.
It's hard to do. I love President Biden's optimism where he's like, well, we just have a couple things to do. We need to, make a 4-leaf clover salad and find a needle in a haystack and get all these people to work together. This is actually a really difficult week. This is extremely complicated because you have well-meaning forces both in the House and the Senate who don't trust the other side to get a bill passed. I agree with the Progressive Caucus and the House saying, look, we're not going to vote for this infrastructure bill unless we get a promise from Manchin and Sinema and the people they're covering for that they're going to be able to pass the sort of human infrastructure bill with reconciliation. That is a legitimate fight. That is the kind of thing that Joe Biden is trying to take care of right now. I don't know if he's going to be successful. We've seen debt crisis and raising this in. We've seen that happen before. I think that'll get fixed. But these legislative issues, I don't know where the middle ground is. But I know one thing: if the Democrats don't get this fixed, nobody in America gives a crap about these sorts of internal arguments. They see a Democratic Party that controls the House, controls the Senate, and controls the White House that can't seem to get anything done this week.
I think that's right, Claire. I think, as usual, Jason's political analysis is spot on. And I wonder two things for you. One, what are you hearing? I know you still talk to lots of folks on the Hill. And what is your advice?
Well, let's first deal with the default and shutting down the government. Just keep in mind what they're voting on today. They're voting to not shut down the government, and they're voting to raise the debt ceiling, which is not new spending, has nothing to do with future spending, has nothing to do with Biden's agenda. It has everything to do with the $900 billion that the Republicans voted for under Trump. And the Republican Party is really comfortable now, I guess, being the party of default, which is really unbelievable if you think about it. During the Trump presidency, all of the Democrats opposed the tax giveaway to the wealthy that was a budget buster. Trillions of dollars in money, government money to the wealthy. And no Democrat was for it. But yet, the Democrats gave the Republicans vote on raising the debt limit, even though we didn't vote for it. We gave them votes so that we would not default and have an economic crisis that would reach worldwide and would impact every American family. They're willing to do that. They are willing to allow default. So they should pay a political price for the political hackery that they are involved in right now. Now, secondly, the fight between the moderates and the progressives as it relates to Biden's agenda. This is Biden's agenda. It's not Joe Manchin's agenda. It's not the Progressive Caucus's agenda. It's Biden's agenda. He is the leader of our party. Get your act together, find middle ground, and push this thing through, period. That's what I would say to all of my friends. That's what I'm trying to say to my friends if they ask.
Well, we know they want you here. Listen, Jason, Republicans are finding kernels in a crappy audit that found more votes for Joe Biden to sell to their base. They don't give a hoot about the reason we need to raise it. I mean, what Claire's saying is, of course, correct, but Republicans don't care. Chaos is their brand. And so I wonder, given sort of not the Republican Party we wish existed, but the one that we actually know exists, what do you think happens?
Well, I think that, again, they're inoculated from the consequences of their own bad behavior, and they should face consequences at the ballot box. But gosh, the only way to make that happen would be maybe to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which would mean getting rid of the filibuster. See, all of this stuff ends up going back to the Senate. The reason that the Republicans can behave the way they are in the Senate right now, gumming up the debt ceiling, standing in the way of human investment, getting rid of abortion in Texas, and suppressing the votes in different places, is because they don't have to fear consequences at the ballot box. That could be fixed if the filibuster were reformed, and then you could pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which would mean the actual people get to select their leaders instead of the leaders getting to select the people. So that's what this all boils down to. Once this week is passed, if the Democratic Party and Joe Biden can get these policy things done, they've got to go back to the things that got us here to begin with, which is the infrastructure difficulties that we have within voting, because if they don't fix that, none of these arguments matter. They will lose everything in 2022 if they don't do something about voting rights by the end of this year, and that falls squarely on the shoulders of the Democrats who are holding up on the filibuster in the Senate.
Jason Johnson, let that be the last word. Thank you for spending some time with us today.